The purpose of this video is to illustrate to students doing introductory accounting how they can use Excel in doing their homework. The assumption is that the student has no or little background in Excel. Is an introductory question where students have to record transactions into subsidiary journals. What are the steps that we have to follow when I have to prepare a homework question with subsidiary journals? The first step is to read through the question to determine which subsidiary journals you will need for the particular question. The second step will be to prepare the framework for the subsidiary journals in Excel. And then lastly, we will start with the question and complete the question. We will be starting with the first step by reading through the question and determine which subsidiary journals you will need for the particular question. The question stated the following. The following transactions appeared in the books of N. Matibe, so that's the person for whom we are preparing the books, during February 20XX. They say all the transactions included that of 15% where applicable. They use the perpetual inventory system. So the first one that we have, they created an electronic fund transfer to P. Mailer for the monthly rent of 12,000. That will go into the cash purchases journal. Purchase goods on credit from J. Mala. Since this is on credit, it will go to the purchases journal. Then credit sales to C. Kane, and they give us the markup. That means that the sales will be recorded in the sales journal, and then the cost of sales will be recorded in the general journal. Then purchased inventory, cash from A. Apple, that will be in the cash payments journal since it was purchased for cash. And then we return damaged goods to J. Mala, so that will go to the purchases returns journal. The next transaction is the owner withdrew 2,000 rand cash from his own for his own use. Now since it is cash, it goes to the cash payments journal, and you know that we call that drawings. We paid in Makwena 4,000 rand in full settlement of our account. That will also go to the cash payments journal. And then C. Kane returned goods to the value of 1150. Now we sold the goods on credit to him and now we returned it. So that is going to be in the sales returns journal, and the return of the inventory will go to the general journal. We finished with the first step, and now we are going to continue with the second step by preparing the framework for the subsidiary journals in Excel. We are now going to prepare the frameworks for the different journals that we have identified. We have identified that the following journals will be needed: the cash payments journal, the cash receipts journal, the purchases journal, the purchases receipts journal, the sales journal, the sales returns journal, and the general journal. And we will be doing each of them on a separate Excel sheet. Now there you can see, there I've already written CPJ in it, on that tab. So we're going to have a tab like that for each of the journals. To save time, you can do the framework for one journal on a sheet and then copy the sheet 6 times and just change each journal's headings according to its unique requirements. Let us start with the CPJ. The heading should include the name of the entity as well as the name of the journal. So we are going to type in the name of the entity as well as the name of the journal. If you want to let the journals look more professional, you can format the headings. The main heading as well as the journal can be merged and centered. So we're going to choose the columns that we're going to use up to J, and we're going to choose on our home screen, we're going to choose merge and center. And the same with the journal's name. We're gonna mark everything that we want to merge and center, and then I'm going to press merge and center. You can make the headings colorful by you choosing a style on the home tab, so you can put in a color by choosing a style on the home tab, or you can just go into the fill and you can fill in the color. So there I choose a blue one, we can go in there, choose a lighter blue one there, and now you can see that one cannot properly see the font in the name of the journal. So we're going to make the font a different color. We can make that white because white will look better on the darker color. And then we can put in the unique headings that we need for the cash payments journal. And then we can also put a color there just to make it nice, look nice and professional. So we can again, on this column, we can just choose a lighter blue. So if we want to change the sizes of the columns, here you can see I've already changed the details column, but let me show you how I do that. You can either just drag it, or you can go and format the column by going to format, and then you can see the column width. So there you can change the column width. Currently it's 18.9. We can now change that to, say for instance, 30. Then the column becomes wider. Right, so that is for the cash payments journal. So you can see here that I've already named it CPJ. So how do I do that? I go into this, if it stands sheet there, you can just go and highlight and you can type over that CPJ. Right, so if you want to make this also nice in a color so that you can identify it easily, you can just right click there, and there you can see tab color, and you can go and choose your blue color. Right, so now we can go and we can copy that 5 times. So you can go to move or copy, and then you choose create a copy, and you say okay, and again move or copy, create a copy, okay, move or copy, create a copy, okay. Right, so there you can see we've already 1, 2, 3, 4, so we still need 2 more. Move or copy, create a copy, and then move or copy, create a copy, and okay. So now you can see that the original CPJ is right at the end, so we can move that to the front by just standing on the tab there and just move or copy. This time we're not going to choose the create copy. We're just going to show that we want to have it before CPJ 6. So, and there it moves to CPJ 6. So now we can go and make the next one. We can go and change that to the CRJ, the cash receipts journal. We can change the colors here again. So let us make that one a red one. So the color here will be a red one. This one will be a little bit lighter red, so we can make it orange, and the last one even a lighter orange. Right, so now we have to change the headings. A Tibet Trader stays the same. This time it's no longer cash payments journal. It's now the cash receipts journal. Okay, and then we look at the headings. The voucher is still the same. Date, details, folio, sundry, details, purchases. In the cash receipts journal, we're not going to have purchases. We're going to have sales. And we're not going to have creditors, we're going to have debtors. And we're not going to have that input, we're going to have it output. Right, and so we can continue with the rest of the journals. So now we can change this one's color again to a more reddish one. So we can just go there, tab color, and we can make that one a red one. So with the others, you're going to do exactly the same. So we are going to have a purchases journal. We will be having a purchases returns journal. We will be having a sales journal and a sales returns journal. Right, so you are going to, on your own, you are going to change all of these headings, that it is the heading that is needed by the different journals. Right, so if we want to do the general journal, because the general journal looks quite different from the other journals, can you see here's a little plus? That is where we're going to add a sheet. So here we're going to add it, and we're going to call that the general journal. So since we have already done the name of the company, we are going to copy. So we go to the cash payments journal. We can either right click, copy, and go to the one where we want to do that and paste it, or you can go there. Can you see there at the top in your home screen you've got a copy, so you can use that, and then when you get to your destination sheet you are going to press there, and then you're not going to right click, you're just going to choose on your home screen the paste, and then it will be pasted like that. So the journal that we're having here is no longer the cash payments journal, it is now the general journal. So we are going to type in there the general journal, and we know that we are going to have the debit and the credit column there. We're going to have a details column. We are going to have a debits column, and we're going to have a credits column. Just call it debit and credit. Right, so now again the details column is not wide enough. We want to make it wider, so we can just drag it and make it wider. Right, and we can change the color here. So again, I don't want it to be everything blue. We can make it a yellowish one, and then a lighter yellow. So we can go to more colors if you want to, and there we can choose a different yellow, which goes more to the green side or a little bit lighter. And here we can also choose another color, more colors, an even lighter one. So there we go there, and we've got them there. Right, so now you can see that we cannot see the Matibe traders on the yellow, so we again going to change that to the to black. And now you can see that the headings is too wide, so if you want to change that, you can unmerge the cells. Again, unmerge both of them, and now you can see that they're hidden. So what you're going to do, you're going to left align them to show that they are in the beginning, and now you can only mark up to the credit, and you can also merchant center. So we're not going to merchant center both of them, then everything is in one. So we're going to merchant center that one, and we're going to merchant center the general journal. Right, so there it looks nice. We don't want this to be colored anymore, so we can go and we can put there in there no full. Right, so now we can start with the question, because we have prepared the frameworks of all our journals, and now we can continue with our homework question. can start with the accounting question. The question says that all transactions includes VAT of 15%, and they use the perpetual inventory system. So let us look at transaction number 1. Created an electronic transfer to P-Myla for the monthly rent of 12,000. So that is, since it is a payment, we're going to put that into the cash payments journal. Now you can see this question didn't give us a voucher or either a date. So we are going to just use the number of the transaction for both the voucher and the date. So we know that it is for rent. We're not going to put in the folio yet because we only do that once we post that to the journal, to the general ledger. Right, so the amount includes VAT of 15%. So we're going to calculate the VAT by taking the 12,000 and multiplying that with 15 over 115, since the amount includes VAT. Right, so the amount there is 12,000, the total amount that we pay, and then the remainder is for sundries, and we're going to put in there that it is for rent. Right, so you know that we don't want the figures to look like this, so we are going to format our numbers. If we go firstly to the sundries column, the one that I normally use is I go to the Home tab and then I look for my numbers, and there you will see the number. I use a number separator. In South Africa we use a space, and I don't want to have decimal places, so I'm going to reduce that so that it does not show any decimal places. So that is what my formatting is going to look like. So now you can see there's a space to separate it, and there's no decimal. So I'm going to do exactly the same with all my other columns. Even though there's nothing in those columns yet, I am going to format my numbers. So you can either use the number separator, and you can just make it 0 decimal places, so then you've got nice rounded figures. Right, so that is for the first transaction. The second transaction, purchase goods on credit from J. Mala for 23,000. So since it's on credit, we're going to use the purchases journal. So we go to the tab of the purchases journal. Again, that is number 2. So we're going to use the name and the voucher, and the date will be number 2. That is M. Mala. And then remember, the 23,000 includes VAT. So the amount that will go to purchases will be the amount excluding VAT. So the VAT is the 23,000 multiplied with 100 over 115. And then the total amount that will go to my creditors is 23,000. So 20,000 will go to purchases, 3,000 will go to my input VAT, and 23,000 will be credited to my purchases account or my creditors account eventually. Right, if we look at number 3, credit sales to C. Kane, 4,600. Markup is 25% on the selling price. So that is sales journal because it's credit sales. So we're going to take that to the sales journal. Okay, so again, it is C. Kane. The amount, the total amount is 4,600. So including in that is VAT, and that is output VAT. So 15 over 115 of the 4,600 give us 600 Rand. So the rest will go to sales. So only 4,000 Rand will go to our sales account. Right, but since that was a sale, and they say that the markup is 25% on the selling price, we have to go and determine what the cost price was of these goods. So we're going to do that in the general journal, and we have to do a calculation. Now I normally use, I call it a track, when I want to explain the relationship between sales, cost of sales, and my cost price. So here you see that the selling price, they say that they calculate the gross profit 25% on the selling price. So I always make that on which I calculate my profit, I make that 100. So the selling price is going to be 100. The gross profit is 25. So the cost price in this relationship is 75. So if I want to move down to VAT, my VAT is 15% of the selling price, so that is 15% of 100 is 15, and the selling price including VAT will then be 150. So if I want to calculate my cost price, I can take 75 over 1115, and that is when I am going to use my price including VAT. So the price including VAT was given in the question, which was 4,600. So I can say, right, it is two ways of doing that. 75 over 1115 multiply with the 4,600, because that is the price including that. That gives us 3,000. Or I can use, I have already calculated the cost. If I go to the sales journal, I've already calculated the cost of 4,000. So now I can just say, right, it is 75 over 100 multiply with the 4,000, and it also gives me 3,000. So that 3,000 is my my inventory that went out. So I am going to debit cost of sales with the 3,000, and I'm going to credit my inventory with the 3,000. So that is the cost of sales of my inventory. Right, so now the next item, they say purchased inventory cash from Apple for 11960, received trade discount of 10%. So the actual amount that we're going to pay, that is now going to the purchase of the cash payments journal, because you see that it is paid for cash. So in the cash payments journal, the actual amount that we are going to pay out to Apple for purchases will be 10% off the 11,960. So that means that we're only going to pay 90% of the 11,960, which gives us 10,764. Now, including in that is VAT. So we're going to take 15 over 115 of that, and that will be VAT. And the remainder will be for my purchases. So that will be purchases, the amount excluding that will be purchases. So it's either the 10,764 minus the 1,404, or you can just use the 10,764 multiply with 100 over 150. Right, so number 5, they said returned damaged goods to J. Mala, 4,140. Now, okay, if we have return goods, it means that we had purchases returns. So that is on the 5th. So we make that both as the 5th. The details is Mala. The amount, the total amount that we are going to credit is 4140. The VAT input is 15 over 115 of the 41540. That gives us 540. So the amount of the purchases returns is 3,600. So 3,600 will go to purchases returns, and 4,140 will be debited to our creditors account. Then number 6, received 3,200 from a debtor B. Burato in full settlement of his account of 3,520. So since we received money, we're going to use the cash receipts journal. Okay, so this is the 6th. It comes from Burato, so we have to mention that, right? And that is now for debtors. So the debtor is going to be credited with the full amount because he owed us 3,520, and they say that is in full settlement of his account. But we only received in the bank, we only received 3,200 rand. So the rest was discount that we have allowed. Right, so the discount that we have allowed, if you can look at that, you can see that it is 320 Rand. So the discount includes VAT. So we are going to debit discount allowed with 278, which is the 320 multiply with 100 over 115, and then we are going to also debit the input VAT with 42 Rand. Remember, discount allowed is an expense, and that is why we are going to debit the input VAT with the 15 over 115 of the 320. Right, so can you see that is quite tricky. Then the next one, number 7, the owner withdrew 2,000 Rand cash for his own use. Again, that is going to go to our cash payments journal. So we're going to put it in the sundries column. We're going to say it's for drawings, and we are having 2,000 that goes out from the bank. Then we paid N. Mokoena 4,000 Rand in settlement of our account of 4272. So that is also a payment. So we're going to put it into our cash payments journal, right? So we are going to debit our creditors with the full amount, because the creditor, we said that it is full settlement, so our creditors will be debited with the full 4272, and then what goes out in the bank is only the 4,000. So only the 4,000 goes out in the bank. The difference will now be discount that we receive as well as VAT on the discount. So the difference between the 4,000 and the 4272 is 272 Rand, right? 272 multiplied with 100 over 115 give us 237, and then 35 is for the VAT. You can see here this discount received, so it's an income, so that is why we call it output VAT and is not taken to the VAT input column. Right, and then they say number 9, C can return goods to the value of 1150. So that is now a sales returns journal. So in the sales returns journal, we are going to put in the name of the person, C. Kane, the amount that the sales returns will be debited with is 1,000, and then the total amount is 1,150, which goes to my debtor. So my debtor will be credited with 1,150, and the VAT output will be debited with 150. So I'm going to debit I'm going to debit sales returns with 1,000. I'm going to debit that output with 150, and I am going to credit my debtor with 1,150, the full amount. Right, I hope that this helped you with the preparation of the journals. This is now the last slide regarding the journals. We still have to do the return of the inventory, which was returned by C. Kane, 1,150. Inventory was returned, so we have to go and calculate the cost price of those goods. So we are going to debit. Again, we're going to use the same formula, and I want to show you a few more formulas now. We are going to take the price including that is 1150, so we're going to take the 75 over the 115, the 75 over the 115, multiply with the 1150, that gives us 750 Rand, or we can go to the sales returns journal. We have already calculated the amount excluding that, So we can just say, right, it's 75 over 100. That is the price excluding that. Multiply with 1,000. That also gives us 750 Rand. So since they returned the inventory, our inventory increased with the 750. And our cost of sales decreased with the 750, and that is now the return. Right, so I want to show you how to use formulas so that you can show your workings, and you can change figures later and it still stays the same. So if you look at this, I wanted to show the workings of the 75 over 115 multiply with 4,600 Rand. So what I did is I just didn't type in the amounts there. I used a formula. So I'm going to show you the formula now. Can you see every time when you start with the formula, you start with a equal. And if you want to disclose something as it is, you are going to put that in inverted commas. So there you can see that I want the bracket there, so the bracket is in inverted commas. And now I'm going to refer to the 75. So I'm show the formula that it should be the 75. So it uses the reference there for the 75. Now you will see that I've got these strange symbols there. That is when I press F4, because if I want to copy this, I still want to use the 75, then I can copy this formula and it will still refer to the 75. Now you will see I put an and in between. So if I want to show it that it must go to a next item, I put an and in. And again in inverted commas, I put the divided sign. So can you see there, I wanted it to have some space. So everything that I put into the inverted commas will be showed as is. Now I put an and again. And now I refer to the C19. So there you can see C19 is the price including VAT. Okay. Again, the and. Multiply, can you see in inverted commas, it will show it just like that. And then I put in the and again, and now I refer to my, to the place where I found the 4,600. Now there you see, SJ stands for the sales journal, and it is G4 on the sales journal. So if you go to the sales journal, you look for G4, can you see there's column G, and there's row number 4, I am referring to the 4,600. So if I'm going to change that, it will change in my working as well. So that is what I do with the reference. So once I copied that, I can use exactly the same. I just am going to change, because there you can see that I still used the 75. But now I use the 17 because I used the cost, which is the 100 there. And I multiplied it with the 4,000. So I'm going to use the same one. I'm going to go to the sales journal and I'm going to look for the E4 now, because it is the cost price that I am looking for, and that is how I do the calculation. So there you can see it looks very hard, but I want you to go and practice that, because that is a very good way to show your workings when you do your homework in Excel. Right, so now we have already done all our journals. We're just going to use a few calculations. We have to get totals before we can do the posting to the T accounts. Right, so the way in which I normally do that, you can either put in sum. So there are different ways of doing it. I'm just going to show you this. You can either use the quick sum. Now quick sum is that symbol here on the home screen. So you're going to highlight everything up to the line where you want it to put in your total, and you're just going to press quick sum. Right, so then it gives you the amount of your Excel. Right, so there you can see that I've added up everything. Or you can, I'm not going to add up, we can do that for everyone. So we can just say copy and paste, all right. And it will give me copy, paste. I'm going to use it here. So we paste the formula to save time, and there it gives you the totals there. With this one, I want to show you a different one, so you can add up. You can type in equals sum, S-U-M. You put a bracket, and then you show Excel which cells you want to add up. So you add it up to the last one, and it gives you an answer. And now it is always important to make sure that everything that is in these columns is also in the total column, so that we call that cross-cast. So if you're going to add up everything, you can either say equals sum, and you're going to put in all of those columns, and that gives you hopefully the same amount as your bank amount. So what I've done is I've added this one plus this one plus this one plus this one by using my sum to do that. So I'm going to do that for all the journals, because I'm going to do the postings to the T accounts in the next slide. So if there is only one, you don't really have to add up. And for the general journal, we don't do any addition. So that is the preparation of the subsidiary journals, together with any calculations that you may need for that. In the next slide, we're going to do the postings to the T accounts. The question requires us further to do the following ledger accounts: the trading inventory, the VAT output, and the VAT input accounts. So that is the only accounts that we are going to do. The question only asked us to do the trading inventory account, the VAT output account, and the VAT input account. So I labeled them I1, V1 and V2. You can label them anything you want to, just so that you know what the reference should be. So we are going to start with the cash payments journal. Right, so the cash payments journal, the one that affects any of them, firstly is the purchases. The purchases will go to the inventory account. So on the debit side of our inventory account, we're going to have cash payments journal, and we are going to have the amount of 9,360. Then it also affected my VAT output account. So in my VAT output account, the VAT output, okay, you can see it goes with discount received, so that should be credited. So on the credit side of our VAT output, we are going to have the 35 Rand from the cash payments journal. Right, and then there's VAT input of 2969, which we are also going to take to the VAT input account. So on the debit side of the VAT input account, we are going to debit the amount coming from the cash payments journal. And you can see there, we have put in the cash payments journal under the column, we have put in V2, so that we know it has been posted to V2. Now we go to the cash receipts journal. Now the cash receipts journal, the only one that affects all of those accounts, or any of those accounts, is the 42 Rand of the VAT input. Right, so that is VAT input. It goes along with discount allowed. So we are going to debit our VAT input account. So on the debit side of our VAT input account, we're going to have the cash receipts journal of 42 Rand. Then we're going to the purchases journal. The 20,000 that we purchased will go to our inventory account. So the column will be marked I1. So in our inventory account, on the debit side, purchases journal, 20,000. Still in the purchases journal, there's that input of 3,000. So that should go to the VAT input account. In our VAT input account, on the debit side, we should have the 3,000 there. So under the purchases journal, that input is V2. So we are going to put in there V2. Right. Now if we go to the purchases returns journal, right, the amount that was returned was 3,600. That goes against our inventory. So in our inventory account on the credit side, we should have the returns of 3,600 rand. And there's VAT input as well that will be credited with 540. So on the credit side of the VAT input, because it was purchases that was returned, we are going to have the 540. Right, so now the sales journal. The sales journal, the only thing that we're going to use here is the VAT output. So on the credit side of the VAT output account, we are going to have the sales on the sales journal. And then from the sales returns journal, VAT output of 150, that will be debited. So on the debit side of the VAT output, you have to have the 150. Right, so I just want to make sure that I've put in the cross references there. V2, S1, V1. Right, and now we go to the general journal. The general journal affects our inventory. So we are going to credit the inventory firstly with the 3,000 of the sales, right? And in here, you have to put the folio in there. I forgot to put in a folio column. So that is going to be I1 if we had a folio column. And again here, I1, we are going to debit our inventory with the 750. So on the debit side from our general journal, 750. So now we can balance these accounts by taking the bigger side. The debit side is the bigger one. So the balance is casted down from the credit side to the debit side for the inventory. That output should be a credit balance. So the bigger side is the 635. So the balance will be, let us just change that one because it is 635 there. So let us just change that one. So the balance is 485. And the same for the VAT input. The debit side is supposed to be the bigger one there. So the balance that we have there is 5471. And that is our T accounts complete.